If you have a nightmare tonight, I won't be responsible for it because this video will awaken your inner fear. Why are you born afraid of bugs? Scientists have been studying for decades. The answer makes people have a cold in the back. This is not a psychological problem. It is genetic memory. Because 300 million years ago, your ancestors were ruled by a group of giant insects for 50 million years. At that time, the dragonflies flying in the sky were as big as the eagles. The centipedes crawling on the ground were longer than 2 yaming. Your ancestors' daily task was only one thing that is not to be discovered: the fear of 50 million years engraved into DNA and passed on to you. So you are afraid of bugs. It's not your problem, it's your ancestors. It's too bad. In this era, about 300 million to 360 million years ago, there was a domineering name, Stone Age. The reason why it is called this name is because the forest that died in that era later turned into the coal we dig out today. Yes, the coal used for heating your house was burned by a tree 300 million years ago. But that's not the point. The point is that at that time, the oxygen concentration of the earth was up to 35%, and now it's only 21%. The extra 14% completely changed the course of the earth's life. Insects did not fly. They relied on the microtubular breathing of the body, oxygen directly into each cell. There is a fatal physical limit to this system. The larger the body, the harder it is to transport oxygen to the body. So the size of the insect now is only as big as the palm. But in the Stone Age, air itself is a super concentrated oxygen. When the insects are full, they start to grow bigger. One generation is bigger than the other. One generation is fierce than the other. The earth is out of control. Let's talk about the giant dragonfly in the sky first. Its wingspan is up to 75 centimeters and its flying speed is 70 kilometers. It can hover and fly, and it can even change its appearance in a moment in high-speed floating. Modern fighter jets have not yet learned this trick. Its eyes are made up of nearly 30,000 small eyes, and its vision is almost 360 degrees, and there is almost no blind spot. Its downward ejection speed is 10 times that of your blink. In other words, you haven't reacted yet, and you're already in its mouth. The success rate of modern dragonflies is up to 95%, and it is the most efficient hunter in the natural world. And giant dragonflies are its enlarged, enhanced version. What's more, they are not one or two, but a cluster of them covering the sky. An ancient biologist found a secret wing fragment that looks like a 300 million years old disaster site. It's desperate enough in the sky. What about the ground? The ground is the real hell. In the rainforest of the Stone Age, there's a kind of creature called Jixiong Wugong. Its length is 2.5 meters, and its maximum body is more than 2.6 meters, which is one head higher than Yao Ming. It has 30 joints in its body, 2 legs per joint, and more than 60 legs in total. Its walking is as precise as a wave, and its climbing speed is 8 kilometers per hour. Don't you think 8 kilometers is not fast? Imagine a worm that is longer than your double bed is rushing to you at the speed of your running. Are you afraid? Anyway, I'm afraid. For the past 100 years, scientists have always thought it was a top predator and thought it would kill the prey like a python. As a result, in 2022, scientists found plant buns and wood fiber. It is a vegetarian. We have been afraid of it for a century. As a result, it just came to the forest to walk and eat leaves. But don't laugh. Even if it is a vegetarian, a worm that is more than 2 meters long and has 60 legs climbs on your bed, your reaction on the spot is probably not as calm as being attacked by a carnivore. Real killers often hide deeper in their bodies. Crests lurk in the bushes. The body is 70 centimeters long and the venom needle is thicker than your little finger. The amount of venom is enough to make adults' hearts stop. At that time, the earth was not a zoo but a slaughterhouse for carnivores. And our ancestors, those early carnivores, the only survival strategy is to hide. Hide in the mud, hide in the trees, dare not come out during the day, dare not move at will. For 50 million years, it has been the most humble existence on this planet. But history is always full of irony. About 300 million years ago, the Earth's climate suddenly changed. A disaster that was called by geologists as the collapse of the GU forest. Tens of thousands of miles of tropical rainforest was split into isolated continents. Then, the most terrible thing happened. The oxygen concentration began to plummet. Those giant insects that once dominated the sky and the earth, the huge body instantly became a burden. The wings of the giant dragonfly could no longer fly. The body of the ferocious centipede began to suffocate. They were not defeated by anyone. They were suffocated to death. The giant insect dynasty that had been in force for 50 million years suddenly collapsed in millions of years. No sound, no breath, and our ancestors who were hiding in the mud finally dared to raise their heads. You know the rest of the story. Climbing animals rise, dinosaurs rule the earth, a little planet falls, mammals turn over, and then you appear. But there is one thing you may never have thought about. Every ton of coal you burn today, every electricity you use, every last breath you take when you drive are all changing the composition of the atmosphere by themselves. In the past 200 years, the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere has risen by 50%. We are releasing the coal that was stored in the carbon dioxide season 300 million years ago back into the atmosphere. What will happen? No one can tell. The giant insects of the carbon dioxide season did not expect oxygen to fall. Dinosaurs did not expect the little planet to come. All the species that stand at the top have a common point. They all think they are the end of the story. The strongest life 300 million years ago died in a more and more thin air. They traveled for 50 million years. In the end, they didn't even see the face of the enemy. You think humans are amazing now. The time we exist is not enough to mark a landmark in the history of the earth. This planet has sent away too many species that will never disappear. It's just that this time, we are the ones who changed the atmosphere by ourselves. Have you ever thought about it? Hundreds of millions of years later, a life that has not yet appeared will also dig out our fossils and make a video saying that if you have a nightmare tonight, I won't be responsible. It's just that 3.8 billion years ago, the earth was quietly sunbathing. Then 99% of the life on the earth died. This era is called the Taigu curse. Today, let's start from here. 3.8 billion years ago, the earth was experiencing an unimaginable nightmare. There is no land, no sky, even death is a luxury. You think the Ming curse is scary enough. The Taigu curse is the real reason for the universe to give up on the earth. The ocean of the Taigu curse is not the blue sea you imagine. It's a pot of boiling yellow-green poisonous soup with a temperature of up to 80 degrees Celsius. It contains a large amount of ferrous sulfide sulfate. If you put your hand in it, it will be corroded to the bone in a second. Look up at the sky. The crimson sky is like a wall. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is 200 times today. The oxygen content is 0. If you take a deep breath here, you'll suffocate in 3 seconds. What's more, this state has lasted for 1.5 billion years. What is the concept of 1.5 billion years? It's only been 65 million years. The Taigu curse is 23 times that time. But in this pot of boiling poisonous soup, the most incredible thing, about 3.8 billion years ago, there was a place called the hot spring. There was no sunshine there. The temperature was over 400 degrees Celsius. The pressure was so high that the submarine could be flattened. However, in this place, where even evil is not enough to describe, some chemists began to collide with each other. They slowly formed amino acids, formed nucleic acids, and formed a group of things that could reproduce themselves. Scientists gave it a name, the common ancestor of Luca. It's not a huge living thing, or even a real cell. It's probably just an RNA chain. It's so fragile that one hit from a small planet can make it disappear completely. But it's your 38th generation ancestor. I'll give you 3 seconds to think about it. Since Luca, life has been struggling in the poisonous soup of the Taigu curse for billions of years, and finally evolved the first real cells on Earth. They don't have a cell box, which is 1,000 times smaller than a dust cloud, but they're alive and reproducing until about 3.5 billion years ago. A quiet revolution began. A microorganism called lactobacillus appeared. They found a way of survival that no one had thought of. They turned sunlight and carbon dioxide into energy and excreted waste gas. That waste gas is called oxygen. But there's a very ironic twist here. The oxygen released by lactobacillus was toxic to all life on Earth at that time, because all living things in that era were polluted. When they saw oxygen, they inhaled green gas and died. What's more absurd is that lactobacillus didn't know about it at all. They were just sunbathing, breathing, reproducing. However, while they were innocently alive, the iron ions in the ocean desperately absorbed oxygen and formed layers of red-brown belt-shaped iron ore. Today, most of the steel is made from these iron ore. The mobile phone stand in your hand, the bicycle you ride, the steel bars you build cities on, their starting point was the waste gas released by a group of microorganisms sunbathing in the ocean 30 billion years ago. This process lasted nearly 11 years. In 11 years, the iron ions in the ocean were consumed little by little. About 2.5 billion years ago, the iron ions finally ran out and oxygen lost its absorber and began to rush into the atmosphere. The concentration of oxygen in the atmosphere began to rise rapidly from almost zero. This is the prelude to the famous oxidation event in the scientific world. For mammals, this is the end of the world. The Earth has welcomed the first mass extinction ever, but the living creatures have learned to use oxygen to breathe and have 10 times more energy. With this energy, life becomes more and more complicated. The Taigu curse tells us one thing: the birth of life is never beautiful story and fairy tale. It crawls out little by little in hell, without any external help, without any God protection. Only molecules to touch molecules, cells to hit cell, live hard in the darkest place. And the first batch of life that struggled in the ocean 38 billion years ago, they didn't know they would change the fate of the planet. They didn't know that after 38 billion years, there will be a kind of human flying to space with the oxygen and iron they left behind. The reason you can stand here today is because something chose not to give up in the most desperate place. In the next episode, we will talk about the Taigu curse. It is an oxygen explosion. The whole planet was frozen into ice balls when life learned to cooperate for the first time. If you think the Taigu curse is shocking enough, the Taigu curse will let you redefine the 4 words of life.